Welcome. Today we're talking about the psychology of high converting copy, why most copy fails, and how elite copywriters think differently. There's a reason most marketing copy falls flat, and it's almost always directly correlated to the writers missing the psychological triggers that drive their target audience. Most copywriters, whether working for Fortune 500 companies or small businesses, are really struggling with assumptions or outdated formulas to reach high value prospects. I personally believe there is not enough emphasis put on the actual reader psychology. Caring when it comes to copywriting is respecting your reader's attention span and intelligence. I think we don't respect our readers' sophistication if we're going to bombard them with generic messages. Wouldn't it be better for them to actually want to keep reading your copy? When you come from a lens of caring and empathy, you just tend to write better copy. You tend to write better copy when you actually want them to keep reading and care about the end game, right? I'm Amanda Katarzi. I'm owner of Cashflow Copy. I'm a pro copywriter trusted by multi-millionaires, billionaires, and highly influential figures. And my approach is psychology driven conversion. So, the foundation of all this is understanding your high value audience. I view myself as a conversion strategist. I grew up studying direct response legends and innovated by applying behavioral psychology to modern sales copy. I was an early adopter of neuroscience based copywriting and advanced persuasion techniques due to my social work background. And in more recent years, have been working exclusively with 8 and 9 figure entrepreneurs running their copy strategies for their high stake launches and funnels. At the end of the day, I could not explain to all of you how many copywriting projects literally spend no time on will the sophisticated reader actually believe this? It's just, is this the way sales letters have always been written, or how many benefit bullets can we cram into here? But the billionaires I work with do not invest in 7 figures because somebody used tired old formulas or landed on a page filled with obvious manipulation tactics. The Super Bowl, I would say, is a better place where we do see better copywriting in practice. They try to make that 30-second message intelligent and compelling. I think I see it every day in premium brands. I see it in elite companies actually creating messaging that wealthy products want to engage with. So how the hell do we connect with sophisticated audience through deep research? When your lens is caring and empathy to connect with high value prospects, you're actually thinking about their worldview. So you're asking yourself questions like, will the person reading this actually find this credible and compelling? For me, that's the absolute $1 million question. So, do you have strategies for how you connect with your sophisticated audience? I would say my number one strategy is something I've done my whole career, which is before I start writing, I research deeply. Like, your biggest advantage is understanding psychology. Don't buy into generic copywriting formulas. You're entering into the greatest opportunity window in direct history, direct response history. It seems like I'm always talking about psychology, but almost everything that goes into my copy has been predicated on me doing extensive research into behavioral triggers. Social media's greatest power is the ability to see what fluent people are actually thinking. We are quite literally living in the golden age, in the golden era of prospect intelligence because of social platforms. And I think the best copywriters in the world are solving problems that wealthy people are discussing but haven't found solutions for yet. So, a perfect example is high end business coaching, right? Successful entrepreneurs really value transformation. And obviously, someone said eventually, you know what? Instead of making them wade through generic business advice and wait through long programs to get results, why don't we just give them the exact systems that created our success, aka coaching? That was a very strong positioning strategy, a sophisticated approach. So let's talk about the evolution of persuasion in the digital age. This one big game is one of like incredibly deep research. So historically, this is what you do through expensive marketing research. This is what you can now do through social listening and direct access to your prospects at scale. The question is, what do you then do with all that data and intelligence? The last 10 years of persuasion has evolved tremendously. We're no longer limited to traditional advertising channels like news cycles are now 12 and 24 hours, not 12 and 24 weeks. So the speed of capturing attention has changed dramatically. Also, the ability to communicate directly has exploded. You don't need a media buyer, you don't need the local paper, you don't need someone at the network saying that you're allowed to reach high value prospects directly. That gatekeeping is absolutely gone. There's not a copywriter reading this who doesn't have permission now, hearing this, who doesn't have permission now to reach billionaires directly through their copy, whether for their own business or for their clients' ventures. On the flip side, it's never been more challenging. What hooks, what stories, what proof elements, what psychological triggers? When do you send emails? How long should the copy be? What credibility markers? I mean, this has become profoundly sophisticated game. Uh, so let's get into the power of authentic storytelling. Here's the good news for everyone who's been intimidated by how complex and fast moving it is. Authentic, psychology driven copy will still convert even if you don't know the latest tactics for LinkedIn or email sequences or sale pages. You will be absolutely amazed how much well researched copy can reach its ideal prospect if it's just written from a genuine understanding of the reader's psychology and their desires. The patient paradox in high stakes copy. When I talk about patience, it drives aggressive marketers crazy. I have a lot of high energy, direct response style kind of writing. And when I throw out patience like, wait a minute, where is this going? You're going all zen. This doesn't sound like you, Amanda. You're aggressive, you're crazy. And I'm like, that's because you don't realize that patience is not complacency. Patience is probably one of the most important ingredients in building something meaningful. One of the reasons most copywriters don't have patience is because of fear. They fear their copy won't convert. And so they try to manipulate fast because if it's not working, they can't deal with the client feedback or the judgment of the people around them. If patience is not one of your core principles, you're finished. You're too short term focused. You're going to deviate from psychological principles and you're probably going to use desperate tactics. I always hear a copywriter say, okay, Amanda, I'm into the patience of building trust and authority through copy, but how do I know it's actually working? Look, the answer is conversion metrics. When I was building my copywriting business in the very beginning, the way I measured if we were building real influence was based on the fact that my clients had to spend less time on paid advertising every quarter, but were achieving a higher level of conversions every quarter. Because after months of strategic copy, I could see that the reputation and the messaging was actually carrying the business. When I think at the end of the day, you have to measure copy based on business results, but you've got to let that play out over time because when you start thinking in campaign terms versus quick fix terms, you're playing a completely, totally different game. When you think long term and when you think about leaving a legacy through your copy work, you tend to ironically make more money because you're building stronger psychological foundations. Does that make sense? So, how do you apply this beyond just copy? I ask you to take this psychology driven approach and deploy it not just in your copywriting or even in your marketing strategies or even just in your business. Deploying it in your life will also help you be a better communicator, partner, parent, professional, human to make that future more influential and impactful. So if you're ready to master the psychology of high converting copy, please subscribe for more copywriting insights that convert. I'm Amanda Catarsi, and this is Cashflow Copy. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.